Excellent. So, welcome to those joining us now. Thank you for joining us as well. I'm going to give a couple more minutes for people to join, and then we'll start with a bit of housekeeping whilst we wait. Let's just give it a minute or so. Please feel free to ask any questions throughout the presentation using the Q&A function. We will go into the Q&A after Eric's presentation. Today's session is being recorded, and we will send you the recording a couple of days after the webinar, along with some useful links around search strategy and Sage Campus. We can give it a little bit more time. I think people are coming in now. Hi, everyone. Just to those joining, we are just waiting a few minutes for more people to come in. And some housekeeping, we are recording the session, so if you have to drop off or if you missed something, don't worry, we will be sending a follow-up. If you have any questions that come up during the session, feel free to put those in the Q&A as well. Okay, I think we can get started, Eric.
Okay.
So I'm Danielle Nemeth, and I'm the Senior Marketing Executive for Sage Campus. And joining us today is our very special guest and Sage Campus author, Dr. Eric Addae-Kyeremeh. Eric is a senior academic with over 20 years of experience in education, specialising in educational leadership, teacher, professional development, and the design of impactful educational interventions. He has taught at various levels from GCSE to doctoral programs and contributed to curriculum development, including distance learning and leadership training. His research focuses on improving educational systems, particularly in low-resource settings such as Sub-Saharan Africa. As a subject matter expert for Sage Campus, Eric has designed and delivered courses like Critical Reading and Writing and Develop Your Search Strategy. For those of you who might not know us very well, Sage Campus is a library resource created by Sage, offering a suite of online courses covering key skills and research methods across all stages of academic study. Our courses are developed by experts with fantastic instructors, such as our guest speaker today. I think we are now ready for the presentation, Eric, so I'll hand it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Danielle. And welcome to this session, everybody. We'll cover a number of areas I hope you will find very helpful in terms of your search strategy. Okay, so by the end of the session, hopefully you'll be able to identify key search terms from your research topic, expand some of these using different approach strings, search strings that we will use. Hopefully by the end of the session, you'll also be able to effectively use some search techniques that we'll talk about, for example, Boolean searching, to build a search string or a search statement for your search. Hopefully, you will also be able to search online repositories by the end of the session. So we'll start by, first of all, kind of doing a quick poll to look at how much time it takes for people to kind of search for resources online, because we know that it does take a lot of time, and that's one of the reasons why Sage Campus developed this course to help students and other researchers or early career researchers who are interested in finding efficient ways to search for resources online. So we'll do a quick poll to sort of pick up how long people are spending in terms of doing their searches. Yeah, so we see quite a kind of broad range in terms of how much time it's taking people to do search, and it's not unusual. It often depends on how experienced you are, but also the topic you're searching on. So it's not unusual to see that sort of range. but it's taking some of you quite a long time to do searches, which is okay, as again, depending on what you're searching. But in some cases, the reason why it's taking you much longer is because you haven't developed an appropriate search strategy or a process to help you do that. Okay, so it's very important that before you start searching for any resources, okay, I'll stop the poll now. So it's very important that before you start searching for resources for your assignment or for the module you're working on, you have a plan. Okay, it's very important that you have a plan of what you want to do. So one of the things that we recommend is that you have at least kind of follow at least these 4 steps. The first thing is to decide where you want to search. Okay, it's very important that you decide where you want to search, because searching for material for your studies or assignment can be daunting. We know that, because the sheer volume of information out there means that finding the most relevant information can be time consuming if not carefully planned. So these 4 steps is what we kind of recommend. So first of all, decide where to search. But how do you begin? Okay, one of the things that I'll always say is that you can start by deciding on a comprehensive list of sources to search, so you can make sure that you don't miss anything. Your lecturers will often sort of give you recommended text or recommended places to search. And very often the first place they'll point you to is your college or university library. That's where you'll find lots of online resources, and sometimes you find print, well, and you'll always find print material there as well, even though a lot of materials are moving online. So your library kind of website will give you access to several online sources, including databases that are subject specific. For example, Educational Research Complete or Science Direct. So once you kind of decided where you're going to search, the next thing is to define the search, and find keywords and or search strings. We'll have examples a bit later. But what that does is that it makes your search a bit more focused. So it's very, very important that at some point, once you've got the assignment or once you've got a topic or the research question or whatever it is that you want to search for information about, you find some keywords in there to build what we call a search string to help you find the resources or information you need. Then the next thing is then to go into the online repository database, wherever you decide to search, and enter these search strings to help you, to enter these keywords and search strings to help you find the information that you need. And then once you've done that, that will throw up a lot of information. But it's very, very important that you record and manage the search results, because some will have duplicate information in there. Some of the information may not necessarily be relevant, but also recording it means that you can go back and have a look at what you searched for previously, so that you can build on your search strings as you look for more information. So it's very, very important to do that. Okay, so the benefits of a well-established strategy is that it will save you time, it helps you find better and more useful resources, and most importantly, you have a greater chance on drawing on a wide range of resources in your essay and assignment, and that's what you need to score high marks. So it's very, very important that you bear these in mind. So a quick poll again, let's have a look. So what are the preferred content? So based on what you've just said, what are the preferred contents that most students or most researchers are using these days? Is it books? Is it conference papers? Is it reports? Is it artwork? And books could be ebooks or physical books you find in your library. Oh, interesting and exciting. Most people are still using books, either in print or ebooks. That's what we're getting so far. A lot of people are using books, still using books. That's fantastic. Brilliant. Okay, I'll end the poll and carry on. Okay, so books are quite popular now. Conference papers are also popular, but lots of people are using reports. Interesting. So no wonder I got a question about reports, which I'll come to later on. Okay, so a lot of people are using books. Some and then the next is reports, conference papers, and artwork. Okay, brilliant. And artwork was placed in there mainly for those in the creative industries who tend to use artwork. So that's interesting. So where can we find some of these resources? Of course, you find them in a physical library when you're talking about books, or you may have bought your own books, or a community library or university library. But let's move into where some of these resources are stored. Okay, and we'll find out that a lot of them, if you're in a college or university environment, they will be stored. You'll find them in your university or college library, but they are housed in what we call a database. Okay, and these databases are like an online catalog. So apart from the physical books that you can find on the shelves, you will be accessing an online repository or an online database, which is like a catalog, which has lots and lots of information in it. And your library database will have specialist collections that will have thousands of book journals. It'll have ebooks, it'll have articles, it'll have newspapers, it'll have some artwork, you name it. It'll have lots and lots of information on there. The key thing is that most of them, if not all, have search tools which allow you to be more precise in your search. Okay, they all have search tools built into these databases to allow you to search for materials that you need. The databases give fewer, more relevant results than using a library search tool. So usually if you go into the library, they're often a generic search tool that kind of gives you access to a wide range of information. But what these databases do are they're a bit more focused, and they allow you to sort of look for materials that are more relevant. Some are subject specific, some are discipline specific, some are a cognate area specific. So I thought I'll pull an example to show you, to give you an illustration of what it may look like. So this is an illustration from academic database, which is called Academic Search Complete. So Academic Search Complete is a typical example of a database, okay? And this is from a university library. And Academic Search Complete is a multidisciplinary database. It provides access to scholarly and popular information from a wide range of academic fields. And it's developed by an organization called EBSCO, and it's considered one of the most popular databases you'll find in a lot of academic institutions. And this interface gives you an idea of what it looks like. And there are fields in there that allow you to perform specific search on there. For example, you can search by subject. So by clicking on the subject terms, for example, it allows you to search by different subjects. But what's interesting is that by default, keyword searches scan the entire text of articles. However, you can refine your search by selecting options like title searches, subject term searches, by pulling out the drop-down menus in there. These allow you to search specifically for your keywords within the particular article or within the subject field in its entirety. To broaden your search, you can add more fields by clicking on the plus button on there, and that gives you the option to sorry, I moved too quickly on there, but that gives you the option to pull down another drop-down menu and add other options. Okay. You can also see that it's got the letter "and" in there. We'll come back to that. That option gives you the opportunity to add your Boolean operators within the search. So we'll come back to that in a bit. So other things that you can find in there, as I said earlier on, is the subject set. So you can search by subject, which allows you to be specific in terms of the subject area that you're looking for. You can also search by fields. So if you look at where the fields options are, they are options that you can have. You can search by these fields. This allows you to, again, drill down even more. So within the subject, you can search within a particular field within that subject area. So this gives you different types of fields you can search. Okay, academic search is quite popular. A lot of institutions use this. Okay, so if you've got access to it, the interface may not necessarily be exactly the same as this, but the tools, the options in there are likely to be the same. You can always visit your library for more information and for more guidance. Most libraries at college or university will give you some guidance in terms of how to use the specific databases. This is not the only database, this is just an example, but there'll always be guidance on how to actually use the database on there. So this is just a quick introduction in terms of how a database may look like. There are others out there as well. Now let's spend some time going into how you actually develop your set strings, or how you actually practice this within a database. Okay, so we'll move on to what we're calling the search techniques and the options available for you. There are a number of options available for you as you search these. Some are built in. So as we saw, the bit that has the and, you can click on it and you'll have or, and you can click on it and you have not. We've called that Boolean. Okay, so there are several options that you can have. Your goal is to make sure that you get the relevant resources that resource that you're searching for. And you can make this using either of these. Okay, it could be a combination of them depending on how much the first technique gives you. Okay, so we're talking about at least five ways of doing this now. So combining these allows you to access a lot of information, because they are all options that you can put into a search database. Okay, so now let's look at the first one, which is Boolean. The Boolean search is based on kind of these mathematical operands, okay? And the words used are and, or, and not. And they are used to look for matches in the title, the author, the subject headings, or any entry in the database repository. What it does is that by putting two words within your search phrase together, it allows you to pull out a number of papers, or a number of books, or a number of resources that are related to that particular Boolean operand. So for example, if you want to look for, actually, let me leave it. We'll look at the search string example. Another bit that you may look at is phrase searching. Phrase searching is mainly kind of picking up phrases within a particular research question, a particular research topic for your search. And then we've got field searching. Field searching is quite slightly different in the sense that with field searching, you can make the database search in a particular part of your record. So for example, if you're just interested in the author field of a particular database, you can then focus on that particular aspect. If you're interested in just an abstract, you can actually search within the abstract, because sometimes that's what you need before you read the full article itself. Keywords and synonyms are also used, because sometimes, depending on the topic that you're searching for, there's more written about that same topic, but different synonyms or different words with the same meaning have been used for that particular topic. So sometimes you'll have to use synonyms or words that are similar to the topic that you're searching to be able to find the right resources. And then we've got truncation. Truncation is an interesting technique that a lot of the databases employ. And what it does is that it picks up the word, and then by the use of the asterisk character, it's able to pick up words that start with that particular search string that you've got up to that truncation, up to the asterisk. So if you want to search home, for example, and you put HO with an asterisk, it will look for any words that start with HO, and then the asterisk is just telling the database that please search for any words that start with HO, and then up to where the asterisk is. We'll see an example in a bit. So these are the kind of the different techniques or search options that you can use. Okay. So we'll have a quick poll to have a look at which of these. Some of you are already familiar with some of these search strings, so it'd be good to see which ones you use most. There isn't a correct answer for this. Not, you can use a combination of them in terms of your search, depending on what you do. So I won't be surprised that some of you are using a combination of these. Brilliant. Yeah, keyword search seems to be the most popular. And then we've got, yeah, a choice between Boolean and phrase searching. And then, of course, filters and advanced search options always come with the database itself. So most people will do a keyword search, a Boolean search, or a phrase search, and then apply some filters and advanced searches as well. Brilliant. Okay. Let's move on. So now let's move into some examples. Okay, so you can see exactly what I was trying to explain. I think that will help. Okay, so let's look as an example. So in this example, we've been given an assignment, or been given a task to examine the role of social media in promoting mental health awareness among teenagers. So we're assuming this is a task that we've been given, and we want to search for information on this. The first thing to think about is kind of breaking your research questions or the essay topic into some core concepts. So for this one, let's look again. So I think the core concepts here are something around social media, because it's around examining the role of social media. So social media, there's mental health awareness, and the focus is on teenagers. So to use a Boolean search, we want to combine this in such a way that it gives us as much information from the database as possible, or the web repository. So to use a Boolean, for example, we may choose to do to make a focus search around this. So we may say social media, because it's a key concept that we've picked up. So we want to find information about social media and mental health and teenagers. And then I've got all adolescents in there. So if you go back to what I said about synonyms, sometimes we may find out that although that the essay topic itself or the assignment said teenagers, we know that in some researchers may use the word adolescents instead of teenagers. So our search string could look something like this. Okay, but just to explain Boolean, how Boolean works, I've added the not operand as well. Because we're only interested in teenagers, we're not interested in adults, you could add that operand on there, which is the not, which is to tell the database that you're not interested in adults. So you're interested in social media and mental health and teenagers or adolescents, not adults. Okay, so that gives you an example of how you can apply a Boolean operation on that. So this gives you an idea. So the Boolean operators are the and, or, and not. And then the keywords are your social media, mental health, teenagers, and we've added a synonym, adolescents. Okay, so what if we wanted to do a phrase search? So again, we're back, examine the role of social media in promoting mental health awareness among teenagers. We want to pick up some of the key phrases. So we are assuming that, okay, we're working in a repository and we want to use some kind of phrases within our essay topic or assignment to pick up information around this topic. So some of the phrases that we can think about when we look at social media is social networks, online platforms. We may even want to go into much detail to look at some online platforms such as Instagram or Facebook. So that's what you'll be writing down. That's what we'll be noting that, okay, so in terms to do this assignment, I've been asked to think about social media. So in terms of social media, what are some of the phrases that I can think about? So these are examples of the phrases that you may want to kind of think about in terms of your phrase search. What about mental health? Under mental health, these are some of the topics that may be mental health awareness. These are some of the phrase alternative search terms that you may want to consider. You may want to consider mental health promotion. It could be mental well-being. It could be mental illness awareness. So these are just phrases that are supposed to help you kind of think about the focus area that you're talking about. Okay, in this particular instance. What about the target population that we were asked to look at in terms of this assignment? So the target population was teenagers. So we're thinking about, okay, so what are the alternative search terms for teenagers? We said earlier on that adolescents could be one of them, but it could be young people, it could be youth. So these 3 slides give you an idea of the different phrases that you can use to help you. And these phrases include some of the synonyms that you can use to be able to conduct a phrase search. Okay. So building your search string in this way, you're looking at something around social media and mental health awareness and teenagers. That's a basic search. But you can expand the search with synonyms, as we mentioned earlier. So this then becomes, you're looking at social media or social networks or online platforms and mental health awareness or mental health well-being, etc. So it's just building a new search string using some of the synonyms or alternative words or phrases that we looked at earlier on to build a search string. Okay. Using these search strings, I mean, you can adjust your results according to the needs of the academic database that you're using, especially some of the free online databases. Like Google Scholar, JSTOR, Web of Science, etc. So it's very, very, very important that you write these down, you build it, and then anytime you put it in, it throws up the researchers' resources. You check to see whether they are relevant. If not, you can use a different phrase or use a different synonym to check to make sure that you're getting the hits that you need. The final one is around truncation. So I mentioned the use of that character asterisk to in your search as well. So in this case, a truncation example, back on the same assignment, is social media or social network or online platform. So putting an asterisk after the M will tell the database that look for all this, look for a word that starts with platform. So it'll give you platforms as an example. Okay. Or you can go for AWAR or PMORT or campaign. So AWAR could be aware, awareness. And then PROMOT could be promote, promotion, promoting. So all the asterisk is doing is that pick a word that starts with these characters. And this is something that is built into a lot of the databases to help apply the truncation technique. Okay. Brilliant. So this gives you an example of how to practically apply some of these search techniques that we've been kind of talking about. So where can you apply some of these search techniques? There are several different places you can apply them, and the repositories that are available keep growing. You've got your college or university library to use. You've got your community library to use, where most of them will store databases that they subscribe to, including Sage. But there are online repositories that you can use for free as well. The challenge, though, is that some of these online repositories don't necessarily house free resources. They will still take you into a paid subscription like you'll have for a lot of the publishing houses. However, where journals or ebooks, etc., have been published under open access, and we're getting a lot of open access. Open access means that it's free for you to use, basically. It is not behind a paywall in a publishing house. It's free for you to use. So we're getting quite a number of publishing houses publishing a lot of some of their resources, not a lot, some of their resources through open access, but we're also getting a lot of open access resources landing or ending up into some of these freely available online search repositories. So these are examples that you can find out there, and I'm sure colleagues who work in the library or our library colleagues who are on this webinar can even share more. But these are examples that I use. So Google Scholar, there's CORE, which is an aggregating service of open access research papers. There's the Directory of Open Access Journals. So that gives you lots and lots of journals. I mean, according to Google Scholar, their database is more complete in the science, technology, and engineering, medicine, literature. So each of these repositories give you some indication of where their specialism actually is. So CORE, for example, claim that they are the world's largest aggregator of open access papers from repositories and journals. Okay, and on their website, they indicate that their search engine make it easy to find repositories across board. Directory of Open Access Journals website states that the kind of DS is unique because of the quality of the content that they have on there. So there's some kind of censoring of some sort happening within there. RefSeek is a search engine, but also it houses all these the database engine that points to resources that you can have access to. The Worldwide Science it's another repository that you can use. So these are just examples that are out there, but I'm sure there are others that you will be using during your online search. Okay. So just to find out probably whether you use any of these repositories before we get into the next session, we'll have a quick poll to find out which of these or others that you're familiar with. Okay, Google Scholar remains very, very popular. Sorry. So that was Google Scholar responding by my phone. Right, so Google Scholar remains the overwhelming one that, the one that most people tend to use. That's interesting. Okay, last time around we did use Google Scholar as an example, but this year, based on feedback, what I've tried to do is to sort of spend more time for us to for me to answer questions, but also to open up the floor for colleagues to contribute to the Q&A session. So thanks very much for this poll. I'll end it. And that brings me to the end of my kind of presentation. So this was just a kind of whistle stop in terms of doing search. So mainly around kind of developing your search strategy. And as I said earlier on, the first thing you need to think about is to kind of identify, have a plan, establish a plan, your strategy. We went through the 4 steps that you could do. We looked at we looked at a database, Academic Search Complete, to give you an idea of what it may look like within your own institution or one that you have access to. But then there are online repositories, which I just kind of finished talking about. We spent some time looking at how you build a search string and the different approaches that you can use, whether it's a phrase search, whether you're using Boolean, whether it's truncation, whether you are adding synonyms to your phrase physiology or your phrase search. So this gives you an idea of where to start. And if you need more information and more detail, the SAGE course that has been written to support this webinar gives you step-by-step guides and gives you more information on how to actually follow this app. What we thought this year will be helpful is to spend some time on questions. And I will start by picking up some of the questions that have been submitted in advance. So I'll start with that, and then we will open the Q&A to allow more questions. Okay, so the first question that I picked up was, how do you go about integrating national policies into your search strategy? What comes first, the policy or the literature? I think it should be the policy or the literature search. That's an interesting question that I picked up. That was submitted to us in advance. There isn't one way of doing it. It all depends on what you're trying to do. So when you're integrating national policy into your search, for example, one of the things you need to think about is the paper you're writing or is the report you're writing a policy paper or a policy review. If it's a policy review, then of course the policy papers you start with the policy papers. You start with the national policy papers. And with the policy paper, the key thing that you want to do is to first of all identify the key or relevant aspects of the policy that relate to the topic that you're looking for. You'd want to understand the strategies that have been implemented within the policy. You want to understand some of the aims and the goals of the policy. And then you'd want to pick out keywords, because once you've done that, you want to pick up keywords within the policy that you're going to then use for your literature search. So I'll say you'll start with a kind of good analysis of the policy, pick up keywords in that policy, and then use those keywords to do a literature search. Because the key thing is to sort of do a policy analysis. So once you've done that, you'll then think about how you integrate the two together. And this is where, again, the course around criticality can help you, okay? Because it's not good enough just explaining or describing what the policy says. Once you're doing a literature search to inform that piece of work, the expectation is that you interrogate the policy. So if the policy is, for example, about developing early grade reading, for example, you want to understand what others are writing, what others are saying about early grade reading. What are some of the key things within the policy that is influencing the focus of research? Is it about multilingualism? Is it contextual? Is it the social context that is influencing that? Once you pick up some of those keywords and do a search for the literature, you'll be able to identify some of the works that people are doing, whether it's a systematic review that people are doing, or whether it's proper empirical work that people are doing that helps inform how you tackle the issue. So that would be my kind of advice on that. The next question that we had was, how can you effectively approach a systematic review? Okay, so we first need to understand what a systematic review is. So there are different types of literature reviews. I mean, there's a simple literature review that most people will do for their academic essay. And then there are extended literature reviews, and then some will call it structured literature review, but then there's a systematic literature review or systematic review. This applies specific methodology. The reason why it does is that the expectation is the level of robustness. That's the key difference, the level of robustness that is expected if you do a systematic review. So you're expected to sort of go through a particular process to demonstrate the level of rigor in terms of your analysis, but also the data, the evidence that you're drawing on. So I've got a number of steps that I suggest one considers. First of all, you need to define a clear research question. You need to define a clear research question, and that's what you'll be able to do. And there are a number of frameworks that are around for you to do that. And one popular one is what is known in the research field as PICO, which focuses on kind of the population, the intervention, comparison, and the outcome. That helps structure. So when you're thinking about the research question, you're asking yourself, what's the population I'm kind of looking at? What groups of people am I looking at? Is there, if it's an interventionist study, what type of intervention is it? Did they compare different groups? Was there an outcome? So that helps you phrase your research question before you actually go into conducting or picking up the phrases and actually developing your search strategy. So once you have a research question, then of course move on to what we talked about earlier on, develop a search strategy, which will be identify the relevant databases that you're going to use, formulate appropriate search strings, and then focus on, and then you think about, what am I going to do? Am I interested in published work, or I'm interested in unpublished work? My advice is always to focus on both published and unpublished work, because very often there are works that are out there that are not necessarily in published journals, but may be relevant to your work. That also avoids some level of bias. So it's very important to bear that in mind. The third thing to do is to be clear about your inclusion and exclusion criteria. So once you have an idea of the population, the intervention, comparison, and the outcomes that you're looking for, you said clearly, I want to include this particular population, I want to include these types of intervention, I want to include these types of outcomes in my study. So be clear about what you want to include and what you want to exclude, which is your inclusion and exclusion criteria. So once you've done that, you then start interrogating databases for your resources or the publication that you're going to review. So once you've conducted all that, you go into Sage, you go into Scopus, you go into all the various databases that are available to you. Once you've got that, you can then start thinking about your screening your results. So once you've got the results, you have to screen them. By screening them, all we're doing is double checking to make sure that the hits you've got or the results you've got are exactly what you want. Okay, and today there's software available to help to the screening. A software like Covidence is a typical example that can screen abstracts. So that's one of the things you may want to do. And then if you're working on it on your own, you need to spend time to assess the quality of the studies that you're doing. If you're working on it in a team, that's even much better. You can split that work and assess the quality of the studies that you've done. And then when you've done that, you then start thinking about extracting the key bits of the data that you've got, analyze them, synthesize the data depending on the research question and what you were looking for, and then finally find a very effective way of presenting your results. And it's very, very important to think about that. And another kind of popular way of doing that is considering what we call PRISMA, which is kind of the preferred reporting items for systematic reviews and meta-analysis. It gives you a framing in terms of how to do that. And one of the things that is always recommended is to be as transparent as possible in terms of your literature, your systematic literature review. So if there are any limitations, you have to be clear about what those limitations are. And then once you've done that, you interpret your findings and provide a conclusion of some sort to the work that you've done. So that is kind of my response to how to carry out an effective systematic review. The next question we received is, what is the best way to use AI for conducting research? Yeah, AI. Okay. That's an interesting question. I think I've got a response, but let me come back. I'll come back to this. I'll take the next question and then I'll come back to that. And I'll tell you why. So the next question is also AI. But it says what is the role? What role does AI play in search strategies, and can it be trusted? So I'll take this question before I come back to what is the best way to use AI for conducting research. Okay. AI is all around us today, and that's been a hot topic in academia and of course business and other areas of work and life. So AI it's here and it's around us in so many different ways. Excuse me. What role can it play? It can play an important role in terms of our search. One of the things it can do is to help you generate keywords. So if you've got a very complex topic and you're struggling to generate keywords that can help you focus your research, there are AI tools or AI bots, as we call them, that can help you. For example, if your research topic is about, say, climate change policies, depending on the AI tool that you're using, it may suggest keywords like environmental policy. It may suggest that you look at issues around carbon emissions. It may suggest that you look at issues around sustainability initiatives, etc. So AI can play a role in terms of your search approach by doing that. A bit more technically, it can help you generate Boolean and semantic search optimization. So depending on the tool you're using, yes, it can do that. It can also help you create personalized and contextual search. So depending on the AI tool that you're using, it can help you. It can help you in that way as well. Today, one of the things that you can also find is that if you look at Mendeley, Zotero, EndNote, they all have AI in at the moment. They've got AI built in there. They have algorithms that can help do some more efficient stuff. For example, they can do intelligent citation for you. So AI tools are all around you, either as an independent tool itself, or they've been built into pre-existing software that we are already using. So AI can help us in a number of ways. Can it be trusted? It depends on what we mean by trust, because it all comes, you see, what we have to understand is that most AI is built by, most AI tools are built by humans. So if we've got any bias in terms of our programming or the development of the algorithms that sit behind the AI application or the AI tool within a particular software, then of course there's that risk of bias then within the tool. But the key thing around kind of bias in algorithms, especially for GPTs, which are generative pre-trained transformers, is that they are not necessarily, especially I'm looking at GPTs now, they are not necessarily kind of doing any specific analysis of what they've been fed. Okay, they've been pre-trained to do a particular thing. So based on the algorithms that have been set, they'll do that particular thing. So if biases are in there already, then the biases will be replicated. That's the challenge we have. There's the risk of misinterpretation based on the context of the question that you've posed to the AI tool or the AI application. So that is one thing that you need to be aware of. In a lot of cases, the quality of sources have sometimes been questioned. So it's something that you need to be aware of if you're using AI for your assignment. But I've got some advice. For me, depending on the institution that you're working with, you will get guidance as a student. Depending on the university or college that you're working in, you're studying with, there will be guidance on how to use AI. Some assignments will tell you you can't use AI at all. Some will say you can use AI, but you have to state that you've used AI. In some cases, AI is actually built into the assessment process. So you're expected to use it in a sensible and an efficient way. So that will also be made clear to you. So make sure that you're following the guidelines within your own institution. But the key thing is that you have to make sure that you're cross-checking whatever you got. whatever output you're getting using an AI tool. Okay, and sometimes the advice is that use multiple AI tools so that you can contrast the information that you're getting. That's very important. But you need the human eye on it as well, because it can't always do the critical thinking for you. You have to do the critical thinking, cross-referencing yourself. So it's very, very, very important that you bring that human element to it. And also, it's about academic integrity. So don't just lift everything that the AI tool has given you and assume that it's 100% accurate. No, my advice is that you cross-check that yourself, okay? And then, as I said, I'll come back to that big question. What role does AI play in, where is it? Sorry, no. How can, no, what's the previous one, isn't it? Yes, what's the best way to use AI for conducting research? Is there a best way? There are so many ways in which you can do that. So one of the things that I've put down a number of new points here. So one of the things that you can do is to kind of use it to help you to streamline the literature review that you're doing. And as I said, there are AI tools built into some software that we use already within our bibliography management and the tasks that we do when we're doing a literature review. So Zotero, Mendeley, etc. already have AI tools built into them. Even for your data analysis tools, like MassQD, etc., that I'm familiar with, they have AI tools built into them. So yes, there are ways in which we can use AI effectively to help us with our analysis. And let's remember, AI in itself is not necessarily new. It's just that the level of sophistication has grown over the years with our understanding of machine learning and progressing things forward to where we are with GPTs. So AI in itself is not necessarily something that is kind of new. It's the applications and the extensions that we're having now that is making it look like it's something new. Okay. It can also help us generate search queries. So yes, there's some good in there, and that's one way of using it to help you generate search queries. There are tools now that can help you summarize and synthesize information. So there are some GPTs that are being developed at the moment that can help you do that. But there are tools like Quillbot that can also help do that. But again, you have to check to make sure that it's accurate. There are tools today that can also help you organize and analyze data. And I'm familiar with that. In Vivo, for example, can now help do that. So there are a number of things that that previously you probably be doing manually that today have been automated through AI. So that can help you on there as well. And then I'll say for us sitting on the other side, it can help with plagiarism detection as well. So when someone is using someone else's work without actually giving them the due credit, that can be used. AI can be used to check that as well. So yes, AI it can be used effectively, and there are ways in which you can use AI to conduct your research. So these are my responses to the questions that were submitted to us earlier. We've got a few minutes, so I will stop sharing and then I will take a few questions before we end the presentation. Thank you very much. Daniela,
Brilliant.
should I stop sharing? Yeah,
Yes,
Daniela, I'll stop sharing.
you can
Yeah,
stop
let me
sharing.
stop sharing. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Eric. That was awesome. Thanks so much. I think we'll take a couple of questions now from the Q&A.
Yeah.
So Lawrence asks, do you have any advice for excluding studies which have weak research methods, particularly in fields in which empirical standards are disputed?
Do I have advice on
Excluding
reasons.
studies, yeah.
Well, the advice is that once a judgment has been made by the team or you as an individual that the methodology deployed is weak, then that is a justification for excluding it, because methodological rigor is very, very important. For example, if the study is trying to prove causality, but it hasn't applied the necessary methodology to allow to trace cause and effect, then that is a weakness in that methodology. So I'm afraid if that's what your aim is, that you want to see outcomes at the end of the intervention, that if it's an intervention, for example, intervention study that you're looking at, and you don't feel that the methodological approach used allows to trace that cause and effect in a rigorous way, that would be a justification to exclude it. Yeah.
Yeah, great. I think we can answer the next question by Shaima. She says, are there any free e-libraries that you recommend?
Oh, free e-library.
Yeah.
I'm not aware of any, but I think well, I mean, the free repositories that I mentioned, you could consider them as free e-libraries, because a lot of them, so DOAC and others, are repositories that house open access journals. So technically they are free libraries. I wouldn't say Google Scholar is a free library in the sense that not all the papers that will come out of Google Scholar are freely available. They would send you to Sage or send you to a publishing house, and some of the resources may be beyond a paywall. So if you're not a registered student in a college or university where you have access to that particular publishing house, you can't have it. But some of the free Web of Science, etc., some of the free web databases that are shared can be considered as kind of free e-libraries, but there's a limit to what will be available there. They're only able to freely publish open access stuff. Otherwise, unfortunately, that's how the publishing houses also kind of stay afloat, because they provide, for example, they're providing all this stuff for free, this webinar for free as well. They have to pay Danielle, pay people to work, do all the work behind the scenes. So some of the materials are beyond the paywall, but the ones that are freely available, often open access pieces, you can get from a lot of the free web databases.
Great, thank you. I think we've got time for one or two more. So
Yeah.
Mirna asks, is there any specific advice on how to choose a dissertation topic? Now, obviously, this is not directly related to search strategy, but I thought it was an interesting question. She says, when you don't have a specific idea and distracted with lots of topic ideas, is there a strategy you have to sort of hone in on a dissertation topic?
Yeah, I mean, again, it all depends on the discipline area. From my experience in terms of the kind of sciences, for example, in my own institution, there's usually a topic or something already that the scientist or the academic will be investigating, and they'll tell you to come in and investigate. But if you are in the social sciences or the humanities, where you need to develop your own topic and then probably maybe use that to apply for a studentship, that's slightly different. You first of all need to think about your interest. Okay, what interests you most in terms of the research field that you want to go into? And then think about where you think there's a gap, because it's mainly about contribution. I probably should have asked what level, because at doctoral level, you have to make, that's the key claim for a doctoral thesis. You have to make a contribution to the field, whether it's methodological contribution, which is you're using a fascinating or a new methodology, or you're using an old methodology in a different way. You have to make a contribution. It could be contribution to knowledge, which means you're researching a topic that is rarely researched, or people have not researched a particular context. So you want to shed light on a particular thing. So those are some of the key things. You want to make a contribution, and that contribution could be methodological, it could be knowledge, it could be community or context insights, and then the interest, your passion. What is it that you're really, really interested in that could guide you in terms of picking keywords and area for focus?
Great. Thank you so much, Eric. I think
Yeah.
that's all we've got time for today. So I
Okay.
also want to say thank you to everyone joining us tonight, and thank you for being very active in the Q&A. That's always great. So thank you for a very insightful session. I hope everyone has a nice evening, rest of day, wherever they are. And hopefully we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Take care. Bye. Good luck.
Bye.